Hello, everyone. Official welcome to this SAP community call. My name is Lena Stodal. I am part of the SAP community and influencers team, and I'll host this call today. It's about efficient DevOps with SAP Cloud Platform, and our speaker today is Boris Zarske. Welcome. Boris is the product manager and is responsible for lifecycle and software logistics, all software logistic topics around SAP Cloud Platform. And together with his colleagues from other areas, he's forging the DevOps story for SAP Cloud Platform. And I'm really looking forward to your presentation, Boris. It's roughly 45 minutes, and we have 15 minutes towards the end of his of this call and after his presentation for him to answer questions that might come up in between. So please don't interrupt him. If there's any questions coming in, you feel free to post them in the Q&A button that is at the bottom of the screen, and post your questions in there. I saw that the chat is already very active, which I really like. So it's a little bit more of an interactive session. And yeah, that's being said, that's the housekeeping rules. I'll hand over to Boris. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes. Warm welcome from me as well. Thanks a lot for having me. Really excited to be here. And yeah, looking forward to our session. So thanks, Lena, for the introduction. And just to outline a little bit what you can expect today. I mean, yeah, I will provide an overview of our portfolio of offerings around DevOps, starting with a short introduction, of course, and to give you a feeling what we have and how you can start and make your first steps there. And there's in the beginning a small disclaimer as well, because there will also be some forward-looking statements, of course, because we are constantly working on the topic and yeah, want to improve it as well by time. I want to start with a very brief introduction to SAP Cloud Platform. And no worries, it's only one slide, but just to get everyone on the same page. And yeah, many of you, of course, will have a footprint on-premise from SAP software, right? Where you have, for example, SAP S/4HANA or other SAP Business Suite applications on-premise. And now, in our times of rapid change, yeah, you all strive for agility somehow, right? Like, for example, yeah, subscribing to software as a service offerings, like, for example, SAP SuccessFactors, or coming up with agile extensions of your on-premise systems, then running on the cloud. And what comes up in that regards is then that you will have some kind of hybrid data flows between SAP, non-SAP, between on-premise and cloud. And yeah, you want to come up with those extensions. That is exactly where SAP Cloud Platform kicks in. First of all, with the integration suite capabilities, where we are offering those hybrid data flows in such landscapes, and with the extension suite that allows a non-disruptive extension that brings in a lot of agility, where you can keep your course stable, meaning business critical applications running on premise or on a hosting provider or in the SAP HANA Enterprise Cloud, but come up with innovation in a very agile way, then with cloud software, be it cloud native software or hybrid scenarios. And here, of course, I'm pretty sure that many of you, when they start to look into cloud software or coming up with cloud applications, also think about what principles they could apply for coming up with corresponding increments. And here DevOps comes in. So what is DevOps? Maybe I can bring up one definition, and I really want to stress one definition because there are a lot of definitions out there. But I like that one here from Ken Markvich from ThoughtWorks, according to which DevOps is a culture where people, regardless of title or background, work together to imagine, develop, deploy, and finally operate a system. So the first aspect is really, it's a cultural thing. So it's not something where you say, okay, I now buy DevOps, or I just apply a tool or something like that and enable it with the press of a button. That won't work. So we really have to think about shifting yeah, cultural boundary conditions, like breaking down silos and coming up with a cross-functional team where all the different experts that contribute to the success of a product are within the same team with common goals and yeah, common practices, so to say. Nowadays, when you have siloed setups. For example, just to give you an idea, your development team is measured by the number of increments, whereas, for example, the operations teams is measured by providing a stable system, so never touch a running system. And that's one archetype of conflicts we typically see in such organizations. And now the idea is to bring those together with other roles as well, not in regards that everyone is now responsible for everything, but rather that you have all the different people together in one team and working together. And for example, also the developers are aware that all the increments they come up with have to be provided with the right quality so that they can also then be easily operated afterwards. Yeah, that's what it is all about. And of course, as it is a cultural thing, it's not something you can do overnight, but you normally start with first projects where ideally you find some teams that are keen on looking into that topic or might even bring experience from other projects, non-SAP most probably, into that project, and gain first experience and expand as you go. Then that's normally the typical approach. And then yeah, you have built up a very good basis and exchange, maybe also with other teams, with SAP, of course. We are also very keen on working with you on those topics and evolved it forward. And as we see SAP Cloud Platform as one very good driver for that approach, we have a corresponding portfolio to ease you adapting DevOps principles for SAP development projects. How do we want to build that bridge or allow you to build that bridge? There we have different categories or building blocks, rather straightforward, but let's briefly go through them. Starting in the lower left with the plan and setup phase, meaning you get SAP Cloud Platform, your account, and think about how to structure it, meaning which sub-accounts you want to set up, and set up corresponding environments. Then development test is rather straightforward, where you come up with increments and make sure that they are being provided with the right quality. Deliver and change is then about propagating the release candidates towards your production environment. Could be either highly automated if you want to have a very agile approach, or with the right amount of control, especially in enterprise environments. And monitor and operate, where you then make sure that the application is being provided with the right performance and availability. As overarching topic here, that's this arch here from the bridge, is the automated optimize phase, where you say, okay, we want to constantly provide you clarity on what is going on with your application and some key indicators where you could find optimization potential. And then bring again your cross-functional team to work on that and realize the corresponding potential. Yeah, in the remaining part of the course, I will now go through the single phases and give you an idea about how we support you in the corresponding phases. Let's start with the plan and setup phase. Here, first of all, we want to provide some guidance because many of you might not have much experience with SAP Cloud Platform or with cloud development overall. And that's just one of the drivers where we want to provide some guidance. But the main part is actually to foster automation, because automation is one of the key drivers of DevOps as well, one of the very key aspects where you want to automate whatever is possible, and that also especially applies for development, as we will see in a few minutes. For the guidance, we have the so-called best practices guide for SAP Cloud Platform. The guide has been renamed recently. The former name has been SAP Cloud Platform Planning and Lifecycle Management Guide. You see a very long name, and I like that we have now renamed it because we also want to bring in a little bit broader topics there into that. But what you can get there is, first of all, you get still a planning section where you learn about different aspects like governance models, account structuring with a lot of examples based on different criteria, security and compliance models. So it's a very good first read to understand how you can run applications in a cloud environment with SAP. And yeah, we are also covering a lot of lifecycle management aspects. We are constantly working on improving the guide. So the next update is planned for beginning of November. So in the next weeks, you will see a major update of the guide being rolled out. Apart from that, one of the key drivers for the automation I've mentioned before is continuous integration and continuous delivery. So here the concept is that your developers store all the source code into a central source code repository, like for example GitHub. There, the source code is then fetched to the development environment. They come up with changes and push those then again into the central repository. This then triggers a continuous integration server, like for example Jenkins, that then performs an automated build and performs automated testing. That is one key aspect that makes sure that you come up with the right quality. And then finally packages that thing. And the important aspect is that the CI server then also provides the transparency back to the developers about the quality or the quality of the increment. And the developers can react on that out of their context, meaning they come up with changes and see directly if it's fine or if they have to change something and can do that directly. And that's a different approach instead of former times where you piled up a lot of changes into large releases and then it had been very hard to push them towards production or towards your runtime. You now have rather small increments and make sure that they all are already fulfilling the quality requirements. As mentioned before, I mean, test automation is key. And here also what you have to, there comes a cultural aspect again in, you have to try to establish test mindset into the DNA of your development teams, meaning that they also come up with test cases when they start developing and make sure that an increment also has to be covered by test cases. And then you start with that and gain from the first experience and improve as you go there as well. I mean, that's also some kind of progress you normally have to make and gain some experience and build up expertise inside your teams. When you have confidence that the outcome of the automated tests really reflect the quality of your increment, you can extend that towards continuous delivery, saying, okay, I want my pipeline running on my continuous integration server. Also then to have a deploy stage where the increment, if it's fulfilling passing the automated tests towards the runtime. And this is the approach that the Facebooks and Netflixes and Amazons of the world are famous for, right? Where they have several releases a day in a very agile environment. And of course, you would like to maybe also benefit from that in certain projects around SAP as well. So how do we support you in enabling continuous integration and delivery in SAP environments? And here we have several offerings. I put them here on a graph with the right graph required expertise and up is the flexibility. The first offering we came up with is the CI/CD best practice guide. Again, a best practice guide, but yeah, that's how it is. And you see, it's providing a really basic understanding of how you can apply continuous integration and delivery with SAP. Meaning, if you want to realize it, you have to build up that expertise. That's why it's put very right to the right here. But you gain, of course, a very high flexibility, because when you understand basic principles, you can adapt them with whatever framework you want to use there, right? Nevertheless, it's also a very good first read. So if you want to understand how to do CI/CD with SAP, you can do that even if you do not have that high expertise yet, right? Here's a screenshot of the guide. So again, outlines how you can apply continuous delivery pipelines on any CI/CD stack and how to apply those principles in SAP specific environments accordingly. The second offering is the so-called Project Piper. So inside SAP, we have a lot of teams that also apply DevOps. And there we just saw the need to derive the expertise from those into more tangible offerings that lower the entry barriers for other teams inside SAP, but also for our partners and customers as well. That's what Project Piper came up with. And it's open sourced approach, and it does offering several things. So here you see the user documentation on GitHub, which it can directly access. The most prominent part are the pipeline templates, which you can directly download from GitHub. So for example, we have a general purpose pipeline, which you can use for all different use cases. We have an SAP Cloud SDK pipeline. If you want to apply the cloud application programming model approach, which is a golden path for building extensions running on SAP Cloud Platform. For example, it defines that you use SAP Fiori, SAP HANA, and then you gain some benefits because you do not have to look into certain aspects that are pre-configured for you. but we are also open there. And yeah, we are coming up also with more and more of those pipeline templates. And the idea is that you download them and then run them in your own continuous integration server then in the end. And that is complemented by the step library. So meaning single steps you can use to adapt and extend your pipeline then according to your need. For example, if you would start with the general purpose pipeline and then use the steps that you need that bring in SAP flavor into the pipeline accordingly. Complemented by typical scenarios, meaning end-to-end use case descriptions, like for example, building an SAP Fiori app or an SAP UI5 application running on SAP Cloud Platform, where you see the complete process with a lot of examples and gain complete insights there. And finally, we have also containerized tools, meaning Docker images you can also download and easily add then also for to existing pipelines. For example, if you should use Microsoft Azure, then you could also bring in SAP flavors quite easily into that by adding a corresponding Docker image into one of the stages then. Project Piper is out there for quite some time and we have received very positive feedback. And again, also here we are constantly working on improving that. As you might have seen right now, we have a very clear focus rather on Jenkins, because at the time of starting that, we considered it as some kind of de facto standard. But of course, there are other frameworks out there, and that's what we also want to reflect. So we have started already. So we are in the process right now to migrating the step library towards Golang, which allows just to use the steps also in other frameworks apart from Jenkins in the upcoming time there. So that is the direction there. And also we want to extend the usage, for example, also towards ABAP on-premise development. There are also corresponding steps already being offered and are being worked on. The latest offering in that regards is the continuous integration and delivery service. You see, it's only requires a very low entry barrier, so it's very easy to adapt, but it does not offer the full flexibility, of course. So the idea is that you go to SAP Cloud Platform and subscribe to the service, and then you can directly run predefined pipelines and which perform then automatically testing, building and deploying of your code changes. So a very simple onboarding. Right now we are supporting the scenarios again for SAP UI5 and the Cloud Application Programming Model development projects. So if you want to apply those, then it's a good idea to start looking into that service. No own infrastructure is required for continuous integration, meaning you do not have to build up and operate an own Jenkins, for example, but that is then being hosted by SAP. And again, it's very highly integrated with all the other tools as well, and very easy then to adapt. And that's also my recommendation. If you have a scenario and say, okay, it's for example a CAP-based scenario or an UI5-based scenario, then my recommendation would be to look first into that service. If that does not fit, look into the Jenkins offerings, Project Piper offerings, sorry. And finally, if that does still not fit, then you can take a look at the best practice guide and adapt it on your own. That's normally the approach I would recommend here. Of course, also here we are working on constantly extending the use cases. So we want to break up that restricted flexibility by coming up with more and more scenarios in the future. And that's what is currently happening there in terms of development. So we came up with the setup, meaning we have structured our Cloud Platform global account into sub-accounts and set up the infrastructure. Now the development phase is rather straightforward, where you can, of course, select one of the mentioned application programming models. You will use some kind of development environment, either, for example, our SAP Cloud Platform Business Application Studio, which is a web-based environment which your developers can access from wherever they are and get your pre-configured environment, which is very highly integrated, but we are also open to use other development environments, of course, no question about it. And finally, it's about then using the continuous integration and delivery, meaning having the setup pipeline and then bring in that automated testing and that feedback channel and work on that accordingly. And the outcome would be then a release candidate with the right quality. Here I depicted one example application following the microservices approach. We see the overall solution comprises of several microservices, meaning app modules you have developed. You might also use some of the SAP Cloud Platform services, like for example for workflow or scheduling, or yeah, we have a lot of different services which you can use and just easily then benefit in your application accordingly. You will have some kind of persistency, like for example, the SAP HANA Cloud Service, or you might also use hyperscaler provided services like backend services there. Just as one example. And now the question is how you now deliver that towards the production environment. And as we've seen before, I mean, one idea could be that we just automate it. So it's about here having the solution in development and now shifting it towards the production. Yeah, continuous delivery does fit, of course, for many simple cloud native development projects where you are confident that you can update it several times as requests, as required. No problem about it. Nevertheless, in enterprise environments, you might nevertheless face situations where you have more strict boundary conditions, right? And there we want to enable you to bring in transport management as option here. We can apply a standardized enterprise-ready change management process that, for example, allows you to add transparency on the audit trail of changes, so you know exactly who performed which change in which production sub-account and when. And you could also establish some kind of separation of concerns, which first of all might sound like a contradiction to DevOps, but the idea here is that you have a defined handover from your development team saying, okay, you have a release candidate and now you bring that over towards into transport management, where the operations team can then propagate it towards production, considering the different boundary conditions of the corresponding target environments. And finally, if you should have hybrid applications, you can also synchronize then on-premise changes with cloud changes. Here we are offering several change management solutions, for example, running on SAP Solution Manager. You might have heard of change request management or quality gate management, CHARM and QGM for short, that allow you to put those changes coming from on-premise and the cloud into clusters, and then you transport those changes together along those clusters. With that, you can just make sure that, for example, the changes do not reach the production sub-account on SAP Cloud Platform before also the enablement does reach the production on-premise system accordingly. That's the process here. What do we offer to apply transport management for SAP Cloud Platform? First one is the well-known change and transport system of the ABAP server, meaning of the SAP NetWeaver ABAP stack. So if you should have on-premise transport management already configured in the form of enhanced change and transport system, enhanced means we are able also to handle non-ABAP objects. That's what this plus stands for, CTS plus. Then you can consider also to extend it. Nevertheless, CTS plus can handle so-called multi-target application archive content types for transport. MTA for short. What is that? That is our approach to handle interdependencies for cloud development. The idea is pretty simple. We put all the different modules your application comprises of into one archive together with the technical descriptions of the contents in the interdependencies. And that allows our cloud platform deployment infrastructure to take such a multi-target application archive, look into it, and it knows exactly to which single runtimes the single modules have to be deployed, in which order, and which technical prerequisites have to be fulfilled, and that just allows or enables an automated deployment in the end. But again, if you have CTS Plus already set up and know you want to also only handle MTA for the time being, there's no reason why not to extend existing processes and bring in also the cloud parts into that. Apart from that, our way forward is the SAP Cloud Platform Transport Management Service for cloud changes, where you might want to say, okay, I want to have a rather cloud-centric approach. For example, as CTS Plus or CTS is running on your SAP Solution Manager, handled by a different team, and they might be a little bit reluctant to allow access for every cloud project to access their system. Or if you just want to have a more lean approach, because transport management is in principle the same approach like CTS. where you have also transport landscape and so on. But it's of course more cloud-like, so nicer UI, a little bit streamlined process, easier to consume and so on. And finally, we also want to tackle all cloud content with the transport management service in the long run. So first step is that we are striving to cover all the different content artifacts from cloud platform. And there we see, for example, applications. I've mentioned the services before from SAP Cloud Platform, like API management, business rules, workflow, that also come up with content artifacts, like the workflows, or think of Cloud Platform integration that have the iFlow packages. And those are normally not stored in central source code repositories. So there we want to offer an option to have also a controlized mechanism to handle those artifacts with transport management service. For those of you who should not know what is transport management all about, I have put in here a short demo video outlining the service. You see here the entry screen. We have here transport landscapes defined, so several landscapes. In that example, we just use a very simple CPI, Cloud Platform Integration test landscape with development and test, or development and prod. Here we are on the web UI of the development Cloud Platform Integration, where we have a corresponding iFlow package, and in a test sub-account of Cloud Platform Integration, that one is not existing yet. And what we now want to do is we simulated that the developer comes up with changes in the development sub-account. And the good thing is that we have a very close integration there, meaning the developer comes up with changes and can then trigger that accordingly by using the transport button there, up there, out of the web UI of the Cloud Platform Integration environment. Yeah, he can provide some comments, then presses the transport, and what now happens is that the corresponding content is being put into an MTR archive and being forwarded to the transport management service. And that's it, right? The developer comes up with an increment, says, okay, it's now ready to be propagated, and then triggers the transport, and that's it. And there we have that defined handover from development into the operations colleagues then within the same team. And there the colleagues see that a corresponding transport request is coming up and can handle that, importing that into transport, into the test environment, and then performing corresponding tests. You see now here the approval step, and now, of course, in the log files, you see the transparency, that you see, okay, what was being added to which production sub-account and when. And of course, the operations team can consider corresponding boundary conditions as well. Like, okay, when is the system allowed to being updated? And yeah, that is stored in the system as well then. I'm pretty sure you trust me that the increment then shows up in the target sub-account. So if you go there, transport management service shows the status of success. We can also take a deeper look in the actual contents of that one and get the corresponding transparency there. And then it shows up here when we do refresh the page there accordingly. You see then it's showing up, and we see that it had been propagated correctly. That's the basic principle there. And again, it's just one method to gain more transparency and control there. How does the overall picture look like with your data center or your hosted environment to the right and SAP Cloud Platform to the left? So to the right, we have all the different flavors of change and transport system CTS. So we have central CTS, we have the enhanced change and transport system. We have also a Git-enabled change and transport system. That is something that allows you to apply continuous integration and delivery for ABAP on-premise development as well. And around all those topics, we will also have two webinars as part of our webinar series here for the SAP community. So the first one is on 2nd of November, already next week, with the different on-premise transport options. And we have one especially for the Git-enabled change and transport system for ABAP on-premise CI/CD on the 24th of November, both from my colleague Karin Spiegel then. Just to make it clear, I mean, CTS and all the flavors are there to stay, so we don't have any plans to get rid of those or something like that for on-premise development. With the side remark that you can use CTS Plus also for those MTA-based changes from SAP Cloud Platform. Again, if you have CTS Plus already configured for your on-premise landscape, you can consider to also use it for SAP Cloud Platform changes if you know that you will stick to MTA-based content for the time being. Otherwise, transport management services are a way forward for a complete cloud platform in the long run. And we also want to extend it in the future, that we are also covering all content artifacts from other SAP cloud solutions, like, for example, SAP SuccessFactors, where we are offering one option if you want to have a more controlled way for all different cloud changes via that service. Also, we can have a combination where, say, my development teams wants to have that very agile approach with a pipeline, as mentioned before, where we have, for example, the CI&D service or Project Piper, and they come up with a release candidate. And here we have, again, that defined handover artifact. As part of your automated pipeline, you can then define a handover artifacts, handover step from your automated pipeline into transport management, meaning instead of propagating the changes towards the production environment, it would trigger a transport request that can be handled with the right transparency and considering the boundary conditions by the operations team accordingly. And yeah, the step library from Project Piper also has a corresponding step, which eases you to have that automated handover directly out of the box. And finally, if you should have requirements or processes around change management in use already running, for example, on SAP Solution Manager, we are also having a direct integration of the cloud-based transport management service into Charm and QVM. And also, of course, CTS is already being integrated, with one exception for the Git-enabled change in transport system. Here, the colleagues are still working on integration that is planned to come up with next year, but I'm pretty sure my colleague Karin will outline that in more detail in her session end of November. But the good thing is you really have those options in place today for transport management and the cloud artifacts here. And that allows also some kind of stepwise approach. Basically, I come up with a very simple project, the first project where I want to apply DevOps principles on SAP Cloud Platform. So I use the CI/CD service or the Project Piper to set up a pipeline, have a very easy running environment, and can gain from the agility that the approach offers. As soon as it comes towards production or release time, you then configure the defined handover into transport management, meaning the operations team can regain control of all those different projects that have started pretty simple with the pipelines. And if in the future interdependencies should come up or change management requirements, like for auditing reasons and other reasons, we have the integration option into higher level change management, such as running on SAP Solution Manager. So you can have a stepwise approach, start very simple, and have all the options. There's no dead end in that sense here. Okay, so we have come up with an increment, have propagated it towards production. Now you have to make sure that we are providing that with the right availability and performance. And of course, there we are offering transparency, where you can have monitoring and logging services that allow you to look into the status of your application with corresponding dashboards and metrics that are being provided. When we take a look at our example app mentioned before, and you might want to consider applying site reliability engineering approaches where your operations team from inside your combined DevOps team is responsible for the application. Thinking of the different building blocks, there are a lot of different aspects they have to consider, like, yeah, again, of course, making sure that the microservices are being fine, that the SAP services have to be set up and troubleshooted if something should come up. You have to take care for the persistency and any used infrastructure as a services from the hyperscalers that you might have included into your scenario. And of course, here manually looking into that by dashboards and so on is a rather tedious task, to be honest. So our approach to support you with that is twofold. So the first one is the so-called alert notification service that allows you to subscribe to any events coming from the SAP Cloud Platform, be it from used SAP Cloud Platform services, be it from the hyperscalers, be it from the persistency. You can also come up with custom alerts from your own modules there that also then are being routed via the same channel. And you notify via the channel of choice, meaning via email, Slack, Microsoft Teams, also offering open APIs. And the good thing is you have one defined mechanism for alerting, and yeah, are very flexible there. And we are also offering that across the different environments, meaning you can use alerting for Neo and also for Cloud Foundry. And we are working on also enabling that for Kyma, for example. The services are already available there. The other offering just came up recently. That's the automation pilot service, which allows you to react on alerts and to automate recurring DevOps tasks there. So what it does offer, it's first of all raising the abstraction level towards the technical parts of the SAP Cloud Platform, where you can easily automate commands without actually having to code them. The basis or the heart of that is are the catalogs along different task categories, like for daily operations, alert remediation, or lifecycle management tasks. For example, we have commands for applications like checking the status, restarting them, database, again, restarting, stopping, starting, updating them, monitoring, you name it, a lot of commands. And right now we have over 130 commands within SAP context there that are being offered there. And that allows you where you can use that as toolbox and build together then your corresponding automated commands then out of that, come up with extended and shared catalogs. They can also bring in own scripts that you might already have, for example. And we have a direct integration then, first of all, with a lot of different of our tools there around DevOps and also into third-party tools, like Chef Automation and so on. And how does now the interplay look like in an example scenario, where we again have our example application to the left, and now we say, okay, an event comes up, like a service stops working. That would now trigger the alert notification service, which would, of course, notify you via channel of choice, like, for example, your Slack channel of your team then. In addition, the alert notification service can also trigger the automation pilot service. And there, ideally, you would have already configured a corresponding command that would, for example, restart the service. Ideally, that would already recover the issue. So for your SRE team, that would look like that is seeing in their Slack channel, okay, an issue came up, automation pilot service did kick in, could solve the issue, and there's no immediate action required from me. Nevertheless, of course, I should take a look at that. Nevertheless, what was the root cause, and make sure that it does not come up in the future to just improve my overall reliability. Otherwise, it might have already gathered the log files from the time the issue came up, which should also help me to then solve the issue in a shorter time and overall make the whole solution more reliable. So that is there what is already available today with the tight integration of the different services there. The services are also available there in trial, so you can take a first look, at least the alert notification automation pilot there the colleagues are currently working on, if I'm not wrong. What I did not mention so far in terms of the channel of choice, of course, there we have also the well-known application lifecycle management offerings like SAP Solution Manager, we have SAP Focused Run, and also we have SAP Cloud ALM there. What does that mean? All around SAP Solution Manager, we have several hybrid operations offerings there. We have the integration monitoring, which allows you to monitor data flows in hybrid landscapes, meaning if you're using cloud platform integration or process integration or process orchestration, you can make sure that they are being performed with the right performance there as well. With the exception management, we have some kind of central exception cockpit. The exceptions from a hybrid landscape can come in. So if you have a hybrid scenario, you can also then channel, for example, the alerts from the SAP Cloud Platform alert notification into that cockpit. And there the team sees, okay, there's stuff coming in, and then they can look into that and assign it accordingly to the right team that can then solve the issue. Then there's user monitoring, where you get transparency on what is happening with your application, and if you get early indicators that something should go into the wrong direction, then we are also offering trace analysis in SAP Solution Manager and Focused Run, but only for the Neo environment for the time being. When you now think of, you might have a focus on rather hybrid environments, meaning your center of gravity for now is on premise, but you want to have first steps towards cloud. And when you now think, okay, how to structure now your operation approach there? And one approach that is supported by our DevOps offerings might be that you say, okay, I have those upcoming cloud scenarios running on SAP Cloud Platform, and now I want to benefit from the hybrid lifecycle management support. What does that mean? It means that one approach you could consider is that you smooth the transition from your existing on-premise center of gravity by extending existing processes that you have for your on-premise operations with enriching that with cloud aspects as well, where you retain your center of gravity on-premise for the time being, and nevertheless have the option to bring in a very agile, also cloud native processes there. What do we offer there? I mean, that's mainly what I have outlined before. For example, you could use transport management with the integration into, for example, CTS Plus or into Charm and quality gate management, where it's pretty easy then to have similar processes, also with the cloud-based transport management service, similar processes and that nevertheless interplay with existing approaches you had before. Again, also with the option to have the defined handover from CI/CD pipelines into transport management, meaning you can really bring in the agile cloud approach with pipelines, with the former known more strict boundary conditions from transport and change management. The other option is the option with forwarding alerts towards solution manager, the no-coding approach for ops automation, which should also allow you to lower the entry barrier there for your ops teams towards cloud. And yeah, then the hybrid supportability offerings as well. And we're coming up with more and more in that direction. So the idea is really that you want to allow you a smooth transition also for your ops teams, extending your focus more and more towards hybrid there. And without the need to actually have parallel approaches, but with the option to bring in also existing new cloud aspects into existing processes. That does not mean, don't get me wrong, that SAP Solution Manager or any of those approaches is mandatory also for SAP Cloud Platform. That's not the story here. But the story is, if you should have invested into SAP Solution Manager and corresponding approaches, you should have also the option to bring in cloud aspects there as well. And that's what we are offering accordingly. Then, of course, we have SAP Cloud ALM as well. And also there, more and more operations tasks are being covered, not only for SAP Cloud Platform, but for SAP Cloud overall, like monitoring, diagnostics with analytics data, also eventing and alerting, and also operation automation. And here, yeah, I'm happy to say that we are also integrating, of course, our SAP Cloud Platform offerings into Cloud ALM. That is what will happen there, so that you don't have parallel stuff, but you can start with adapting our services. And if you want to apply Cloud ALM in the long run, then you can then charm them into the corresponding processes there. Just to make sure that there's no misunderstanding, Cloud ALM is complementing SAP Solution Manager and Focus Run. It's not meant to replace the other offerings. So it's targeting the cloud native customers and yeah, just yeah, having a complementary offering. But of course, for those customers that want to consider using Cloud ALM, then we think it's a good thing that we are integrated there as well, of course. Final phase, automate and optimize, is the integrated DevOps management. And that's just a brief outlook where we are working on bringing then the different aspects I've mentioned before into one, yeah, some kind of portal there, where you see exactly what is happening with your application on SAP Cloud Platform, where you see SLAs and key performance indicators, where you see, okay, there's maybe immediate action required, like, for example, a notification that certificates are expiring. And you can really bring in your complete team then into that developer portal environment. And yeah, we want to provide a first glimpse of that developer portal approach at TechEd timeframe, meaning around TechEd. And yeah, we want to come up with first versions externally around in the beginning of next year then. So yeah, expect to hear more about it, how we bring all the different aspects then into one rather view, and that shall also ease to the overall consumption of the different aspects I've mentioned in the past 45 minutes. Okay, to wrap it up, I'm pretty sure that you have quite some questions there. Just to wrap it up again, I hope you have seen that we have a compelling portfolio, a mixture of services you can subscribe to, guidance, best practices, and approaches like cloud application programming model as well. And the good thing is that we really want to smooth the starting point where we are also open there. So the key points we want to stress are why it does make sense that we are offering DevOps principles around SAP Cloud Platform. First of all, I hope you have seen that we are covering the complete life cycle, not just CI/CD. CI/CD, of course, is a major part of that, but also beyond CI/CD, making sure that we have that complete picture in. Then we want to span the different environments, meaning we are offering transport, alerting, CI/CD, automation across the different environments. Meaning if you should have Neo today and want to go more and more towards Cloud Foundry, or in the future maybe also Kyma, then you can stick to the same approaches for transport, alerting, and so on. Yeah, we are offering hybrid lifecycle management in the sense that we are offering the option to integrate into existing on-premise procedures if that is desired, but again, it's not a must. We have a very high integration, like the interplay of alert notification with automation pilot, and also transport management service, for example, can send alerts via the same channel. And we are also offering automation commands around transports, for example, for scheduling or automated transports there. Multi-cloud enabled is following our strategy. Of course, we are also integrating, for example, hyperscaler alerts into our alerting if you should use some of those. Nevertheless, we are open there. So we are also providing open APIs, again, for alerting and transport management as well, that allow you to also integrate our parts if you should have DevOps principles in non-SAP environments and want to rather extend that and use then also bring in also the SAP aspects, then we also have to be open, and that's what we are striving for as well. And finally, we want to provide guidance, not just tools. So if you now want to learn more, I put you some slides, links here. Of course, we have a SAP community page for DevOps overall. I also put in a link for the Git-enabled change and transport system if you should be interested in that. Again, we have the session end of November from my colleague Karin Spiegel around the topic. We have a help portal page for DevOps with Cloud Platform, a blog post series, a learning journey as well, and again, the link to the best practices guide. Then again, the reminder that we have our services in a trial environment, so you can go there and use transport management, alert notification without charging. And also we are offering onboarding missions in the SAP Cloud Platform Discovery Center that allows you to make first steps there, set them up accordingly in a guided process there. And we have also continuous influence session, and here's also the link to the overall series of that course. So if you want to take a look at the mentioned GCTS session or the transport session, you can find more information in the reference block series here. Now, open up for question. Also here you see my contact information. I'm also happy to hear afterwards if you say, okay, question should come up in some weeks from now or at a later point in time. When you want to adapt that, feel free to reach out to me. So we're really keen on getting in contact with you and working together with you on those topics. So now I don't have any feeling about how many questions did come up. I see one Q&A here, and there's also something in the chat. Maybe I start with the Q&A. Mr. Heiser, thanks a lot. Great that you're also on the call. That's very, very pleasant to hear that. Please, could you give us a hint about the potential extra cost? That's a very good aspect. Thanks a lot for bringing that up. I've mentioned some of the services. Maybe I just go back to that slide here. Sorry, have to go through the animation here, that one here. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, that's part of the concept of SAP Cloud Platform, that we are providing additional services with some extra cost. I mean, we have mentioned a CI/CD service, continuous integration and delivery service, that is charged by operation hours, meaning processing hours, something like that. They came up with corresponding examples. So if you have a small team with only a certain number of transports per month, then you end up with €5 per month, something like that. If you have a more broader project with several developers and several deployments and yes, several activities around it, then they came up with a calculation of something around €100 per month, something like that. If you need more information, I can point you there as well, but you see it also linked in on the corresponding page. The next one, transport management. Also here it's the case that we are charging by the amount of data uploaded to the service, meaning you upload an increment and then you are not charged per the single transport, so meaning only charged once, and then arbitrary number of transports. That's just reflecting our cost driver, which is the persistency of the service. And there the charging is 18 euros, meaning 18 euros, around 20 bucks per month per 1 gigabyte. And 1 gigabyte, for example, for cloud platform integration suffices for several hundred transports normally. Alert notification, there it's charged per 1,000 API calls that are alerting, that are going out of the service, that are charged per €1.25 per month. So also very small charge there. And again, it's not about, you can also subscribe to platform alerts, meaning if some issues should come up from platform service that are not charged, because that would not make sense that we charge you for any issues we have, sorry, with our services, right? So only if you come up, for example, with custom alerts that result then in an alert, that would then be charged. Yeah, and I'm not sure if I missed something. Yeah, I mean, I can provide you more information about that. 2 remarks I'm aware of: no matter how low the charge is, that charging always is a topic. From that point of view, I can promise that we are working on a topic, and I can also give a remark that you can expect to hear something around TechEd that shall allow you to ease a little bit the transition there. And we are also working on other models that should allow you to use that if you have subscribed to a cloud product. That should allow you to use some of our services then in a different way. Let's phrase it that way. Happy to share more with you in the upcoming months then around that. Okay, thanks for that question. Then I saw that we have some questions in the chat. Let me just check a look there. Good morning, good morning.
I think in the chat it's all good.
Ah, okay, good, okay. Great. So yeah, again, if you should have further questions at a later point in time, I'm very happy if you reach out to me via email. Let me just see if I can bring up again my contact slide. Here we are. So here you see my email address. And again, that's really meant as I said it. I'm very happy if you reach out to me with any questions, or if you want to look into single services in more detail, like the transport management service or alerting. Reach out to me and we can set up a one-on-one webinar where we give a demo and discuss together how that might fit in your environment. And yeah,
Great.
If there are no other questions, then thanks a lot for your attention. And yeah, back to you, Lena.
Yeah, thanks everyone for attending this community call. Thanks, Boris, for hosting it or for presenting in the call, and for all the insights. Okay, there's more. Okay, that's so thank yous in the chat. I really enjoyed it, and I don't even have to promote it further because you already did it at the end of your presentation, so that's great. I also shared some like our replays and future community calls for all of you to join. Other than that, stay safe, stay healthy, everyone, and yeah, talk to you soon again, hopefully.
Greetings from Waldorf.
Have
Bye.
a great weekend. Bye-bye.